Alright, so now we're inside here. I got this in the sink. Basically, I'm just going to hook up my wort chiller here. The way I have this set up is to basically just hook right up to my, I have a little drinking fountain spigot. The camera just fogged up there. Little spigot, it's going to hook right up onto that and then just cool this down. Alright, so I have my wort chiller running here. See, I just have it hooked in right there. It goes all the way through, coils down all the way into this, and then back out into the sink right there. And we're going to let that go until the temperature comes down to about room temperature. It's still right about 200 degrees here, so it's going to take a while. Okay, we're down to about 70 degrees here. You can't really read it, but that's what it says. Trust me. We're going to take this and auto siphon it down into my fermenter, and also I'm going to do a little bit into my hydrometer to take an original gravity reading here, and then I'm going to put my yeast cream into the fermenter and we'll be good to go. So now I got my hydrometer test tube set up here, and I'm going to take an original gravity reading here. What you do is just kind of stick it in there and give it a good spin and see where we end up here. Right at the top, this thing is not focusing at all, and it looks like I am slightly just above 1040, so nothing astronomical as far as the gravity goes, but right around just above 1040 is not a bad start. Also, you can see I am siphoning into the primary fermenter here from the boil kettle there. I'm going to make sure I don't get the very bottom of this. I want to leave all the sediment behind. Alright, so I'm down to the last part of what I'm siphoning here, and you guys can see I got this tipped on an angle in the sink here. So basically I'm just getting the boiled wort and none of the extra hops and all the extra crap basically that's down at the bottom of this. All my wort in my fermenter here, and basically what I'm going to do is just shake the crap out of it. You got to get some air back in the fermenter. Basically what you did when you were boiling it is get all the air out of the wort. So now that it's all back in here and we're ready to put the yeast in a minute, you want to get as much air in here as possible. Now the last step here, once you got your wort aerated, is to put what we made earlier, the yeast cream in this case, as far as the dry yeast goes. We're going to just put it right in the fermenter. That's it. And then we just wait. This whole thing is going to take probably about a week to 2 weeks to ferment, and then after that we'll be all set up and we can bottle after that. So now we're just going to hang out. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. We'll put I got my cap on this fermenter here, and then also my airlock on the top there. And now I'm just going to wrap this in a blanket. That way no light gets to it. Similar to something like that right there. And we'll just let it hang out in the basement for probably, like I said, a couple weeks there. And then we'll be all set to bottle. So we just finished up brewing last night, and it's only been one day, and you can see I already have the airlock working here. The yeast is already going to work. Not sure if you'll be able to see it or not on this, but there is quite a bit of activity going on inside this already from the yeast, and that's the benefit of doing a rehydration when I did the dry yeast, or actually doing a starter if you're using liquid yeast. It'll have the same effect here. It jump starts your whole process. So it is day 2 here, and as you can see, my airlock has stopped bubbling. Shouldn't be done fermenting yet. I think it has something to do with it being so cold outside and my basement only staying at 60 degrees. Ale yeast ferment between 60 and 75, so I'm going to bring it upstairs and try to warm it up, and we'll see how it goes in the next few days. We've been fermenting for about a week now. There's no more action in the airlock. I've been fermenting at about 68, 67 degrees. As you can see, everything is falling down to the bottom. all the sediment. The beer should be cleared up pretty good now. We're going to take a gravity reading with the hydrometer just to make sure it's completely done fermenting. Alright, so I'll take another hydrometer reading here. We're going to give it a good spin and see where we're at. And it looks like we are right about 1010, which is a pretty good final gravity there. That's about what I was shooting for. I'm going to get my sanitizer solution ready here so I can sanitize my hydrometer and my auto siphon and also all my bottles that I'm about to bottle here. I just got my tabs like I showed you guys before. Fill this guy up, we'll get everything good and sanitary. Okay, before we bottle here, we got to sanitize all of our bottles and the caps that are going on the bottles. So pour those into solution. Now, if you're like me, I use bottles that I bought commercially here. I don't go to the store and buy my own bottles specifically. It saves a lot of money that way. I just basically fill them all up. First I rinse them out, then I fill them all up, let them hang out in the sanitizer bucket for a while there. You can see the labels will come off fairly easy. I'm going to try to do this one-handed here. They will just kind of pull off. Depending on how many bottles you got, this turns into quite a process sometimes. I'm actually using twist top bottles, threaded. A lot of people say don't do this, however, I save my caps and I don't bend them up, so in this case I use the right cap for the right bottle, put it back on, and as long as you're not really a monkey about it, you can thread these back on with relative ease. Now I'm going to take my priming sugar, usually about 5 ounces per 5-gallon batch, and mix it up with what I have here in the fermenter. I'm going to siphon this off into my bucket here and mix this in. We're siphoning this in here. Make sure you're not getting any of this sediment at the bottom. Start from the top down. I want to make sure we're mixing this in here slowly. Just make sure it completely dissolves this priming sugar here. The reason we do this is to carbonate the bottles. The yeast that's left back in the wort here, this is going to eat the priming sugar and produce a little more alcohol and carbonation. Tilting this on the angle here so all that settles at the bottom so I don't get anything while I'm siphoning this off here into the bucket. When we're all done, you can see as we're left with just what was left on the bottom there, and I have all the good clean wort and the bottling bucket ready to go. Just went and rinsed out my auto siphon there, and now I'm going to attach my bottling wand. That's what we're going to use to put the beer in the bottles there. You just put it right on the end of the auto siphon. Stir this up a little bit, make sure all that sugar is dissolved. The way the bottling wand works is a little tip at the end. When that gets pressed in, it allows the beer to come out, and we just put it in the bottle here, and you press it down and wait till it gets all the way up to the top. You get to the top, press it down a few times slowly, and when it gets all the way to the top there, pull it out, and it's the perfect amount of airspace in each bottle. I'll just go through and repeat this for the rest. I'm going to take my cup of clean caps here that I did earlier and go through and just go ahead and cap all these. Just twist them on by hand. I got them all capped up now. I ended up with 44 12-ounce bottles here. I'm going to go through now with one of these rubber things and tighten up every single one of these caps. Now I got them all capped up, I got them stacked up here. I'm just going to put them in a blanket so that they're not exposed to light, and let them condition for about 2 weeks in a temperature of approximately 68 degrees because it is an ale, so they condition a little bit higher temperature. So that is how you all-grain homebrew. It might seem like a lot of steps at first, but once you do it a few times, it comes pretty naturally to you, and it's actually not that hard. Thanks for watching, and hopefully your product turns out very well. Cheers.